Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video.
I, male, 34, had been married to my wife Emily, female 30, for 2 years. Then we separated for 6 months before we ended up getting divorced. I was always kind of the reacher in the relationship, and she was more of the settler. And I won't lie, the divorce did end up as a breath of fresh air for me. Emily had always been verbally abusive and controlling during our relationship. I had gotten laid off from work due to an accident that left me unemployed for 5 months, and I'm currently working for lower than I used to make previously. The accident had happened while we were still together, and she always used to gloat about how she was making more money than me and kept trying to emasculate me. I won't lie, the whole relationship was toxic, and we divorced because I discovered that she had been cheating on me with someone she had met online. I saw a bunch of texts to someone named Loverboy, and I confronted her about it. Honestly, she didn't even try to deny it and said that she was okay with the divorce and settling out of court, saying that her lover was more man than I could ever be. The divorce finally got finalized yesterday, and she had agreed to a ridiculously large settlement, one that paid me like $40,000 and a very generous alimony for the next 2 years. This didn't really make up for the years of pain she had inflicted on me, but I decided to take it. However, as soon as I signed the contract, Emily said something that shook me. The person she had been cheating on me with was none other than my brother Paul. I can't believe that she would do this, and even worse, I can't believe Paul would agree to this. I didn't even believe it at first and immediately called Paul after she left laughing. As soon as he picked up, he said, "Look, OP, I know what you're going to say, but I'm in love with Emily, and the way you've treated her just hasn't been right. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, but you can't be in a relationship the way you were. I've even told Mom and Dad about it, and I'll be honest, you're not welcome around us anymore. At least not until you know what you did was wrong. The alimony you're getting and the settlement too, that's from me. Emily didn't even want you to have it, but unfortunately you're still brother." I mean, what? I was so confused that all I could do was stutter and stammer before I heard him slam the receiver down. I don't know what Emily had told him, and then, through that, what he had told my family, but it seemed like I had been cut off from everyone I loved. I took this whole situation hard. This divorce was 8 months ago, and I fell into a massive depressive spiral for 2 of those 8 months. I only survived, although I hate to admit it, due to Emily's alimony and the divorce settlement check. I removed her from all of my socials, and my brother had removed me from his, and I spent ages before I could finally act like a normal person again. And when I was finally back to being a functioning adult, I only had one thing on my mind: screw over Emily as badly as she had screwed me. I dug into my family contacts to try and figure out what she had told them. A lot of them simply ghosted me because of the narrative that had been built, but one of my old-time cousins finally responded and ranted to me via text. He said that he trusted me, and that was betrayed because I had physically and verbally abused Emily. I was hearing the details for the first time, but basically she told Paul that she had been driven into his arms by my violent behavior. This was news to me, and I told my cousin it was all a stinking pile of BS, and as desperately as I tried to convince him, he just wasn't having it. He hung up, and I knew that I had to figure out a way to prove my innocence. I was thinking of a plan, and then it finally struck. Someone like Emily, as evil as she was, wasn't going to suddenly change because she was with my brother. She was likely to do the same thing she did to me to him as well. So I made a fake profile on IG to catfish Emily. I was smart about it. I didn't take pictures off of the internet, but hired a ripped actor and did a bunch of photo shoots with him. Then I made up enough of a believable backstory that she would buy it. My guy was a big business tycoon from Colombia who lived largely. I was having fun with it. Sue me. With no images taken off of the internet and enough logic to the story, nobody could tell this was a catfish. With a little bit of work and some posts ready to be put up, Lewis was born. Then I followed her on her socials and her private account and waited for her to take the bait. Sure enough, she DM'd me replying to a story I had posted from a Lamborghini dealership, IMAO, firsty much, and from there on, the relationship started. I knew I had to play this slow, so I kept the talk to equal parts good catch and equal parts frick boy to make this mystery man seem as appealing as possible. This went on for 4 months, and Emily started to consider Lewis to be one of her close friends. One day, she suddenly texted Lewis asking if he wanted to meet up, but I had planned for this. I had intended to keep in contact with the actor I used for the photo shoot earlier anyways, Manuel, but we ended up becoming friends during those 4 months. I was going to make him pull this off as a simple gig, but Manny was so invested in my story and so imbued with hatred for Emily, I mean, I had to vent to someone, right? That he was willing to do the whole thing with as much dedication as Tom Cruise. With all the right charisma and a certain amount of money I was willing to give to Manny to make him look rich, the trap was set. They went to a super fancy restaurant, and my agent opened his wallet and his ears and heard what Emily had to say. Just like before, she told Lewis that she was trapped in a loveless marriage and her husband was a boorish, violent, and stupid man. One thing that shocked me was that Manny told me she pulled up her sleeve and showed him bruises. But with him being an established actor, it was clear it was made using makeup. This can be done with something as simple as eyeshadow. But, damn, huh? No wonder Paul believed her when she came to him. Now we have evidence. But all we needed was proof. I figured the best way to do this would be to DM her from my account, and knowing that toxic bitch, she'd gloat about screwing over my family again. So that's what I did. I reached out to her and played up the I miss you card, and I could tell she was loving it. I won't lie, it was super annoying to text this woman as both Lewis and myself, but I had to keep going for the payoff. But I finally got her to text enough incriminating stuff. A few of the things she wrote were, "Babe, I'll be sure to make Paul see that you were right when I leave him too. Your entire family is just a wallet for me." I found this new guy, and he's just better than you and your bro combined. I know how to make a convincing story, and I know Lewis is going to believe everything I tell him. With all of this proof and the testimony I'd get from Manny, I was ready to exact my revenge. I collected all the relevant info in one big digital folder and shared it with my cousin, asking him to spread it to the rest of the family. Lastly, I put the folder up on social media along with a detailed post about how I got my revenge. I wanted everyone to know how badly I had been screwed over. Something as shocking as this eventually got covered on a few podcasts and local tabloids, so I had a bit of publicity from this too. This bomb dropped just about a week ago, and I'm still in the thick of it. I did get a call from my brother asking to meet up, and when we did, he gave me the longest freaking hug ever. It felt nice. I nearly burst into tears, and we discussed how crazy our wife had been. He apologized for everything, told me that he had kicked Emily out and retracted everything he'd said about me. However, I got a call from Emily while I was out with my brother. Barely holding back laughter, we answered the call. Emily was furious, and she said that my posts had cost her her job and her family was losing their mind. She told me the only reason she did any of this was that she had to provide for her family, basically as a con artist. And when I got injured, I wasn't able to cut it anymore. I told her this was a shitty excuse and hung up. When I got home, I found a legal summons from a lawyer representing her saying that I was due in court for public defamation. I won't lie. My mood was dampened by both of these things, and I now feel like I went too far with the online post. Should I have focused on simply telling my brother and getting my family back? Update 1. Okay, so I spoke to my attorney, and she said I'm in the clear for the public defamation as there were no private images or anything in the chat. I also went to visit my parents at their house for the first time in ages, and it felt nice. Manny came out as the actor Lewis in this whole publicity stunt, and it's done wonders for his career too. Quite a good return on his investment, IMAO. Update 2. Emily's case got thrown out of court, and oh, guess what? The alimony that was coming out of Paul's pocket earlier, she has to figure out a way to pay me that now. Karma truly has a way of working itself out. She begged me to reconsider the divorce agreement, but I laughed in her face. Update 3. Emily has gone broke. The alimony payments stopped coming through, and I reached out to the local family court to figure out what was going on. After a bit of digging, it turns out Emily has drained her savings account and skipped town. Can't say I'm mad about it. I'll take a world without that bitch over money any day. NTA, and you're a real G for this, haha. Revenge is a dish best served cold, huh? NTA, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. Emily should probably be locked up for the kind of shit she pulled. I hope you don't hold your brother's behavior against him either. She seems to be a master at manipulation. I'm 26, male. My nephew, 9, male, is an extremely picky eater. He only eats nuggets and rice for lunch, dinner. My sister is trying to change that, but it's really hard. No, he doesn't have autism or anything. He had cancer at age 3, and that was the only food he wanted. My sister always gave in, and it became a path of no return. He is fully healed and turned into a little brat monster. On Friday, my sister called saying that she needed me to take care of my nephew for about 5 hours because there was no class, and the babysitter could only be in the afternoon. She and my brother-in-law wouldn't be able to take the morning off. I accepted. After all, she needed help, and she said she would pay for the hours I took care of him. My nephew arrived home at 8 a.m. and would leave at 1 p.m. At lunchtime, I made rice, chicken, and vegetables. When he saw what it was, he asked if he had his nuggets, and when he found out he didn't, said that he didn't eat what I had made. I just replied, "That's what you have. If you don't like it, wait until your mother arrives and she does it at your house." It was 11 a.m. and he had breakfast at home. He saw that I wouldn't make nuggets and ate with a disgusted face. He even made some vomiting sounds. To be clear, I didn't force him to eat, and my house doesn't have junky food for kids. Market is 20 minutes walk away. My car is in the shop, and I was not in the mood to go to the market with him, as I can tell you that it is a stressful experience to say the least. My sister arrived and I went to work right away. That night she called me screaming and cursing because he had told her that I forced him to eat something so he wouldn't starve when he doesn't like the food I made, and that now he was traumatized by being forced to. I argued that if she knows her son is an extremely picky eater, why didn't she bring the nuggets? Not everyone has nuggets in the fridge, and it wasn't my fault her son didn't eat anything else and was traumatized by eating the normal food that people eat. She even said that I should have been kinder because he was forced to eat that, because otherwise he would have to go hungry until she picks him up, and that I could have asked the market to deliver this and she would pay later. It would be very expensive. In the end, she didn't pay me for the time I stayed with him, because the traumatic experience he had with me is enough, and my family is on her side. AITA? To be clear, I'm not child-free. I get along well with my children. I love them, but my nephew is a piece of work. In case you're in doubt, my sister is pretty straightforward about paying for things she thinks she should pay for, so it wasn't an excuse not to pay. Sorry for the wording. Guys, to make it clear, if he waited 2 hours since he didn't want to eat the adult junky foods and chicken, I let him do it. But if he wanted to eat at that moment, that would be that. No, there were no vegetables on his plate. I don't mistreat him. I get along well with children, including him, but I know how to recognize when a child is difficult to deal with, family or not. I see him every Sunday at my parents' house or family events. I say he's like that, not only because of picky eater, but because if he doesn't have things his way, he throws a tantrum and screams until he gets it. He was like that before the cancer, and during it, it intensified. I don't blame my sister for that. And then it got so out of proportion. NTA, nephew said he was traumatized. He wasn't. He is a manipulator, and you refused to be manipulated. You weren't rude. You were straightforward about it. Not eating for a few hours isn't going to do a kid that age any harm. Too bad your sister cannot see how she is raising a monster. I understand that having a child who has cancer is going to make her tend to spoil him a bit, but he's okay now, and it will be awful going forward in life for the both of them. And she's not doing his health any favors by feeding him crap for all of his meals. I also think that maybe spending time in a hospital at 3 maybe messed up his emotional development. Next story. I, 19, female, have been living with a close friend, 19, female, since last December. We co-signed a lease, so both our names are on paper for the place we're renting out, and we pay 50-50 for the rent. The lease was up a couple of months ago, but we were still making back-to-back monthly payments due to our agreement with our landlord. Everything was going good up until a couple of months ago when my roommate started acting differently. It started off with some small things, like when she'd have a bad day at work, she would get home and basically take it out on me, which is fine. I can handle minor mood swings. I thought it would just be a temporary thing anyways, however. It gradually got worse. She was constantly mad at me and would look for anything to berate for, sometimes without even giving a reason why after. Not only that, but she kept acting like the place was solely hers. She would say things to mutual friends about how it was her place, therefore she had the final say in whatever happened to it, or who was welcome and who wasn't, without even consulting me. I finally had enough, so I decided that it was time for me to move out. I gave our landlord my 1 month's notice to be out by the end of September and told her about it the next day. She gave the landlord her 1 month's notice about 2 weeks after I told her. But by then, it was already September, so she informed him she would be gone by October. Even before I gave my notice to the landlord, I've been staying with a different friend, 20, male, so I haven't been there since almost a month ago now. The other day, she messaged me saying that rent was going to be due for October and that I had to pay my half. But I told her, I'm afraid I can't do so, as I gave my notice that I'd be gone by the end of September. She ended up getting mad and saying that this was not fair and that I'm totally screwing her over. I haven't even been living there for almost a month now, so I feel I shouldn't have to pay for a place that isn't mine anymore. But I do feel kind of bad about it. So AITA for refusing to pay my half of the rent? Edit. I've noticed there's been some confusion about some things I would like to clarify. Yes, we had problems with an ex-boyfriend of mine who had drug problems. He's been gone for a while now since we both agreed to get him out, as it could have been a problem that dragged us down. She was consulted about him moving in, and no way did I ever make her feel like she was obliged to say yes to letting him stay with us. Me and him weren't even dating when he first moved in. And neither of us knew about his drug problem until after he moved in. We both agreed he had to go, so that's what happened. The problem started after he left. I would also like to add that for a short period of time, her brother, who's also an addict, was allowed to stay with us without her even consulting me, since it's different because he's family. Another thing is we had signed a 6-month lease that started in December and ended in June. She was considered the primary tenant, though, and we had both agreed prior to moving in together that we only wanted a 6-month lease in case things didn't work out between us, or in case there was a problem with the place. Neither of us wanted to be tied down to something longer than necessary in case it didn't work out, which it hasn't. After the 6-month lease was up, we were doing a month-to-month lease. However, our landlord said nothing to us about needing to create a new contract. He had no issues with me giving my notice. He only said I had to go through her to get my damage deposit back. This is both our first time renting, so that's why I'm unsure if what I'm doing is wrong. NTA, your written lease had expired and you were operating under a month-to-month lease. You properly informed your landlord and co-tenant that you were not going to continue the lease and paid your portion of the final month of your lease. You did literally nothing wrong, legally or morally. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.